Hi everyone, so in last video we had covered 2.8 which is type conversion, and today is 2.8 which is basic operators. Before jumping to operators, let me ask you a few questions if you think you know operators. Do you know why 2 plus this string 1 is 21 but 2 minus this string 1 still gives you 1, right? The answer is you can see in this video. And the next question is, do you know how to write the square root of 4 in programming? So this is how we write it. So do you know then how do we write the cubic root? If you know, you can continue with this operators video. There are a lot of such things we will cover in this video, and in the interviews also a lot of questions come from operators, the tricky questions, right? So we'll cover this operators. So first of all, what is operators? We might have, you might know from the schools. The operators are, we have the operators like multiplication, addition, subtraction, right, and so on. So in programming, so what are other operators are there along with it? And in this thing, we'll also learn these terms like unary, binary, and operand. So let's start with operand. What is an operand? So if you are just, let's say, multiplying 5 into 2. So 5 and 2 are these numbers, and this multiplication is a operator. So the numbers are the things on which we use this operator. So operator is multiplication, and we are using this over 5 and 2. So in this case 5 and 2 both are operand. So in short, an operand is what operator are applied for, right? That is clear. Then coming to the next topic, what is a unary operator and what is a binary operator? So when we are doing a operation on a single operand, here in this case 5 into 2, there we have two operand, one is 5 and one is 2. So this is a binary, right? Because this multiplication is a binary operator, it requires two operand. But if I will say x equals to 1, I'm assigning the value 1 to x, right? So what happens is, in this case, this is unary operator, right? We don't need anything else. This is just single thing we need. An operator is unary if it has a single operator. For example, the unary negation reverse the sign of the number, right? So here, even this one, right? So these are the unary things. And the operator is binary if it has two operand, right? So y minus x, something like that. Here this is not two things, this is just we are assigning the values. So let's come to the maths. The following math operators are supported. So these are the operators that are supported in JavaScript. So addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then we have this remainder. We'll see what this remainder, although it looks like percentage, but it is not percentage. Then we also have exponential. So how, if you want to write the power of x to the power 2, x to the power n, how you write it? So in that case, we'll use this two multiplication symbol, so that denotes for the exponential. Okay. Let's first see the remainder. So although it despite it appears like a percentage, but it is not percentage. So what is a remainder? So when you are dividing something, let's say we are dividing 5 by 2, so 2 is 4 and the remainder is 1. So if you write this 5 modulo 2, or also it is called also modulo, or the remainder, so it will just give you 1 as the output, right? So that's how this remainder works. Then the exponential, if you want to write 2 to the power 2, so this is how you'll write in JavaScript: 2, then 2 multiplication symbol consecutively, so that will be considered as exponential. Okay, so this will also we'll see also how we'll write the square root, because this is how we write the square, right? So see how you write the square root. So you ideally, to if let's you want to write 4 to the power 4, or 4 to the power 2, or if you write 4 to the power 1 by 2 or half, that also is same as the square root of 4, right? So that's how we write it. So 4 to the power 1 by 2, that means that this is the square root of 4. Similarly, if you make this 1 by 3, then it will become the cubic root. The cubic root of 8, this is how you'll write 8 to the power 1 by 3. So this is same as the cubic root. Then we'll see the string concatenation. So if we are using this plus operator with two strings, so it will just append the strings. But what if one is string and another one is number? So in that case also, so you have to remember this. In case of JavaScript, whenever we are using plus operator, in that case everything will be converted to string. Okay, clear? So here we had one string, then one number. In this case, our rule applies and 2 will be converted to string, so it will be 1. But this will not be the same case in case of the subtraction. We'll come to that. Here, while execution, it saw that 2 is a number, but then it will have to append it with a string. As soon as it find it's a string, it converted this part to a string as well, and it became 21. So if we'll see another example, let's say we have two numbers in this case. So this is pretty interesting and it could be interview questions. Okay, let me show you this. So if we have 2 plus 2, right? So while we started executing, so you might be thinking I had told that if there is a string, it will convert everything to string. So it will be 2 to 1. It's not 2 to 1. Why? Because while it started executing, it started from this point, right? It's a number 2, okay? Then it's a plus sign, okay? Then it's another number. Till this point there is no string, so it added those two numbers and made it 4, right? Then it came across another plus, and then it finally saw a string. But when it saw a string, till then this 2 and 2 were already added as 4. Then it will be 4 1, not 2 to 1, right? So we'll see another example here as well. So in this case, from the beginning we told that it's a string, right? So in this case it will not be 14, rather it will be 122. Why? Because from the beginning it got to know that we have a string, so whatever is coming in the future it just need to convert them to string and append, right? So it first saw a string, then it saw, okay, the number, but I already have a string with me, so let's convert this to a string. So it made it 1 2. Then it found another number, but again it has the rule that I have already got a string, so this needs to be converted to again a string, so it will be 1 2 2. Hope this is clear. Okay, so the binary plus is the only operator. This is the thing I told you, right? You have to remember this. The plus is the only operator that supports string in such a way. It's the only arithmetic operator that operates in this way in JavaScript. This is not the same case with subtraction. So if you'll see the subtraction over here, 6 minus 2, it will convert this 2 to a number and it will subtract 6 minus 2. The answer will be 4. As this is not addition, so that rule doesn't apply here. Similarly, 6 divided by 2, in this case it will convert everything to numbers and it will do the division. That rule applies only for the addition. Then numeric conversion, right? So this is also interesting one, you might not know. So if we have something like we want to convert it to a number, so we can use this plus unary operator, right? So let's say we have this, let x equals to 1. We have a variable x where we're assigning this number 1, and we're just writing plus x, so it doesn't do anything because it's already a number, so it doesn't need to convert that, right? But see, in this one example, so we're saying that plus symbol and then true. So true is a boolean. If you'll convert this to boolean, so ideally if you're writing plus before something, so it will just see if this value is true or false. If it's true, it will convert it to 1. If it's false, it will convert it to 0. So now true is a true value, right? So it converted it to 1. But if there is a blank string always is a false value. But if this could be string, some text inside it, this will be again convert to 1. But as it's a blank string, it will be converted to 0. It's actually the same thing as number. So in JavaScript also, you can, instead of this plus, you can write this number with a capital N, which is the class name. So also you can write this way. This will also, it's the same thing, but this is a shorthand of doing that one. So this is a very good thing to know while writing your day-to-day code or programming. So this will be very helpful or useful to you, right? So let's say this one now. So now let's say we are getting two variables. One is apple, it's a string 2, and oranges is a string 3. So if you're adding these numbers, right, so as these both are strings, right, so what it will do is it will just append. So remember our rule, if there is string in a addition, then it will just append. It will not think of anything, it will just append. But in this case, see, what we're trying to see is we're trying to convert these two numbers, right? Why? Because we saw here, right, where we're writing unary plus before anything, we're essentially saying that convert this to number. So what we did here is plus apples, right? So we converted this value to string, like the string, it was in double quote, means this 2 was a string. Now we converted this to number. Similarly, we converted this to a number and now the addition is 5. But you might be thinking, why you are saying that we did this, then we did this, then we did the addition. So that brings to the next topic, which is the operator precedence. Like which things should be, like in math we had we're reading about Bodmer's rule, right? So similarly we have some rules in programming, and that is called as the operator precedence. So that says the execution order, like in which order which operator should be executed. So that is the precedence. So if you'll see, we have this precedence table, and in this the highest precedence is unary plus. And here if you'll see, we're using this unary plus. The only plus means unary. It is the, because in the left side we don't have anything. If we could have anything over here, that could be a binary operator, but this is a unary, and unary plus is a highest precedence. You saw in this table, right? Its precedence is 14. So what we'll do is it will convert this to first, then it's another we have unary operator, it will convert this first, then what is the like addition precedence, it is 11, right? So this 14 precedence things it complete first, then it goes to addition, which is this 11 precedence. So that's why we need to convert this to 2 and 3, and then it brings us 5. Hope this is clear. So this is explaining the same thing, so you can remember this number as well. So then we have this assignment part. So let's note that the assignment is also an operator. It is listed in the precedence table with very low priority. You will see it has just precedence of 2. It's a very low precedence, right? So fine. So because after everything is done, you will assign, right? So that's how it has been for that one. So let's see another use case. So in this one, so what is the precedence of, we have multiplication and addition. So if we'll see in this one, so multiplication precedence is 12 and additions precedence is, it is 11, right? So first we'll do the multiplication. 2 into 2 is 4, then we'll add it with 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. Then the least precedence is assignment. So as we got 5, we'll assign this 5 to x. So that's why the value becomes 5. Hope this is clear. So also using that same assignment, we have some use cases. So we can see the how the chaining of assignment and this happens. So let's go through another example. We have two variables. We have a variable a that we're assigning with the value of 1, and we have another variable that we're assigning a value with 2, and we're saying that, so let's evaluate this sentence, right? So first what happens is, there is a bracket. The bracket has highest precedence, so it will come to evaluate this part, and inside this we have a equals to operator and a plus operator, right? So as we learn, the equals to have a very less precedence, so it will first do this part. So b is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3. So now inside this bracket you will assign this one. So what will happen is, this is 3, right? This evaluated to 3. Now 3 minus 3, this is 0. So c, we're assigning 0 to c, so c is 0. And in this one a, we evaluated this condition to 3, that's why 3. And also what we can do is, we can also change these assignments. So see, this is another interesting example. So we declared 3 variables. Now in this one, how this will be evaluated? So we have this equals to, and we know that equals to the assignment part has very least priority, so we'll come to this later. So the first part we need to evaluate is this plus, because this has this precedence of 11. So 2 plus 2 is 4, and then we'll assign this to c is 4, then this assign to this one, right? So this is how the assignment happens. And one thing to remember, that chaining assignment evaluate from right to left. That's why we started from this one, right? So from the right to left, this is how the chain should be executed. So till this point we completed to this assignment, and then next we'll see this modify. So the next part is modify in place. So we have some sometimes we came across some use cases when we have to apply an operator to a variable and then store the result in the same variable. For example, let's say we have a variable n equals to 2. Now what we're doing is, we're just adding 5 to this 2, or the value of n, and then we're again storing whatever the result in n. In that case, instead of doing this in 2 line, what we can do, or there is a shorthand to do this, instead of writing this, what we can do is, we can write it like this: n equals to plus equals to 5. This is a shorthand, and this is called as modify in place. So what this essentially says is, plus equals to means whatever is the value of n, you add 5 to it and then again store it in the n itself, right? So similarly, this n multiply or into equals to 2 is n equals to n into 2. So instead of writing this long thing, you can write it in a shorthand like this. So this is mostly called as modify in place. So sort, modify and assign operator exist for all arithmetic and bitwise operator, right? So this is that. And then coming to the next part of increment and decrement. So what we can do is, so in this case also there is, we have a pre and post thing. So let's say what this is. So let's say we have a variable, let counter equals to 2, and if we want to add 1 to this variable, right, the value of 2, what we can do is counter plus plus. This is a shorthand of counter equals to counter plus 1, right? If I am writing counter equals to counter plus 1, it will be 2 plus 1 equals to 3. So this also does the same thing, but you have to keep in mind that you can do this only over a variable. You cannot write 2 plus plus, that will not work. So only if there is a variable that holds some value, then you can do plus plus on top of that variable only. Similarly, we have this decrement as well. So if you have a variable counter a counter equals to 2, then you can do counter minus minus, which is same as counter equals to counter minus 1, right? So this is a shorthand for that. And this important thing is saying the same thing that I mentioned, increment and decrement can be applied to variables only. So if you try to write this 5 plus plus, this will give you an error. This doesn't work. Then the next part is in this one. So with either we can use it in a prefix form or a postfix form. What that means is, if you have variable counter equals to 2, either we can write counter plus plus or plus plus counter. So what is the difference between them? So what is the core difference is, if you are in this use case, if counter is 1, then you are saying that plus plus counter, it just increments that counter with 1 and returns this incremented value immediately, right? So in this case it will be 2. But what happens is, in this case, if you are writing counter is 1, now counter plus plus, so what happens is it incremented the value of counter to 2, that is correct, but in this place it will return the previous value to this one, so it will return 1. So that's why in this case alert A will print 1, but it under the hood, after this return, then it increases the value to 2. I know this sound might confusing, but this is how it is. So we'll see some example, and in this use examples we can maybe get more clarity in this one. So let's say we have a variable, let counter equals to 0. In this case, if you're saying counter plus plus, so in this case we're doing post increment. So in this case, the value of counter is going to be 1, but we're not returning this immediately, right? Then what we are doing is we're doing plus plus counter. So in this case we are not assigning this immediately, so that's why this plus plus happens on top of this incremented value. That's why this becomes 2. So if you would like to increase a value and immediately use the result and operator, we need to prefix form, right? So that, as we mentioned, so if you want to use that value immediately, then you have to do plus plus. But if you want to use the existing value, but under the hood or the in next iteration you want the value to be incremented, in that case you have to use plus plus. Hope that is clear. Then increment and decrement among these operators plus plus or minus can be used inside expression as well. So it's not that only like this. So let's see how this looks like under expression. So this is expression. So let's say we have a variable, and in the alert we are saying that 2 multiply by plus plus counter, right? So what happens is, it was 1, then this will be executed, right? So it becomes 2 because the precedence of this one is higher than multiplication. So it becomes 2 first, then 2 into 2 is to 4. But this is technically okay. Approach like this is technically okay, but this is not recommended because this makes your code less readable. Okay. So now we completed this increment and decrement part. Then we'll come to the next section, which is bitwise operator. So bitwise operator, we have a lot of bitwise operator like and or not, left shift bitwise, right shift, zero fill, right shift, all these. And what this bitwise does is, so like in a real world scenario, it's very less likely that you will use bitwise operator. So what they do is they see, so bitwise operator treats the arguments as a 32-bit integer number, right? So it changes them under the hood. So mostly you'll use this when you're using some cryptography or something, but in a real, like, while you're building some application or something like a REST application, so very less likely you'll use this one. So in this JavaScript info section, so they have not explained much in this one, so maybe if you want more explanation, we'll keep this to next another video. So the next, the last section in this one is the comma. The comma operator is one of the rarest and most unused operator. And do you know that its precedence is even less than equals to? So it's because till now we have seen this precedence table. At the last there was equals to, but this comma sits even lesser priority than equals to. So what happens is this comma operator allows us to evaluate several expressions dividing with a comma. Each of them is evaluated, but only after the result of the last one is returned. So what happens is, for example, here, let's say this example. So here we have a comma. So once only this is the evaluated, then only this one will be evaluated. So what this else is, first it will add 1 plus 2, which equals to 3. Then it will just discard that one. Then it will add 3 plus 4. Then it will just assign the value to here, right? But you must be thinking, then what is the use case when you will use that will add something but then will just discard that one? So that's what it is saying. Why do you need an operator that throws away everything except the last expression, right? Because we don't need such use case. That's why this is a very rarely used operator. So comma has a very low precedence also. You can see, please note that the comma operator has a very low precedence, even lower than equals to. So parentheses are important in the example above. So with this we completed this, I think it was 2.8, the basic operators in this one. And the next video we'll see the next part of which is the comparison.